on this Thursday morning in Washington today, the White House turns its attention to health care reform. President Barack Obama had some harsh words for Wall Street executives who are still getting big bonuses. You and Senator McCain have talked about implementing a spending freeze. What specific things are you proposing cutting from the budget to help reduce the deficit and help America prosper again?
The exit polls were quite interesting because 50% of the Republicans polled in Virginia tonight said that McCain wasn't conservative enough for them. Two men arrested in this case just made their first appearance before the judge moments ago. We continue to follow a big breaking news story this morning. Right now, Interstate 64 shut down in both directions between Waynesboro and Charlottesville. Obviously, 64 is shut down for that 20-mile stretch. Are they doing anything as far as Interstate 81 is concerned? Are they concerned this suspect might strike again on another highway? Taking a look at today's Health Connection at 5:47. How much coffee do you drink in a day? 1 cup, 2 cups? Well, I'm on my third.
That's, by like 4 o'clock for you, right?
Right. But a new study is actually suggesting perhaps the more, the better. The president took the stage about 10 o'clock, right on time this morning. He spoke for about 5 minutes or so, when we do have to point out he was greeted by some protesters, but overall the event was pretty peaceful and really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for these newest citizens. Let's take a listen to what Mr. Bush had to say. And in classic George W. Bush style, he took it in and he smirked and he said, free speech is what we're all about. And we saw probably about a half dozen or so protesters being taken out of here by the police this morning. President Obama was at the luncheon this afternoon when this happened, and he says his thoughts and prayers are with the Kennedy family tonight. Now, the news of Kennedy's illness makes the security setbacks that so many people faced earlier today seem very minor. It all started with barricaded streets, wall-to-wall people, and unprecedented security.
It was very chaotic.
But nothing could keep these crowds away.
We wouldn't miss this for the world.
The emotions ran deep from one generation to the next.
I've seen lynchings, I've seen the marches, I've lived through all of it. And to be here for this, in this time, in my lifetime.
This is my first election that I voted in, and I would never have thought that I would have elected the very first African-American president.
As the countdown to history unfolded, the anticipation only grew. And the payoff, priceless.
I can hardly speak. I'm so happy.
Just took my breath away.
I never thought this would ever happen.
I was like, hallelujah, like this is finally happening, our first black president that hopefully would make this world a better place.
And that was certainly the sentiment shared by so many people today, the hope of change and a new chapter in American history. And of course today marks day one of Obama's legacy. Back to you.
NBC 29's Crystal Cameron joins us now, and obviously that's a big part of the reason Sarah Palin agreed to sit down with you one-on-one.
Absolutely, Stephen. Sharon, you know, she hasn't given very many interviews, but I did have a chance to catch up with the governor at her stop in Fredericksburg a little earlier this week. And we did cover an array of issues during my one-on-one with Governor Sarah Palin. Tonight at 6, we take an in-depth look at two of the hottest topics facing her ticket, the economy and the war in Iraq. The floundering U.S. economy and the Republican plan to fix it was the first item up for discussion. You and Senator McCain have talked about implementing a spending freeze. What specific things are you proposing cutting from the budget to help reduce the deficit and help America prosper again?
We have to have a spending freeze so that we can get into every agency, every department, and start finding the efficiencies that have got to be plugged in so that we can slow down the growth of government.
What about specific cuts, though? Anything in mind?
This is what we're talking about, getting in there, being able to, with a freeze, that allows you to get in there and create the efficiencies that will have to be found. We look forward to cracking down on the abuse of the earmark and that process that is, as John McCain calls it, the gateway drug, that the abused process today with pet projects of politicians will crack down on that, and that too will get us off on the right track in controlling spending.
And while Palin wouldn't talk about specific cuts, she did say that her and John McCain's economic plan is much better for Virginians than Barack Obama's.
Overall, it makes a heck of a lot of sense, especially in these economically woeful times, that government isn't growing, that we allow our families and our small businesses especially to keep more of what they earn and produce so that they can reinvest according to their priorities. That's how jobs are created.
And while so much of the campaign is focused on how to restore confidence in the economy, there are major global issues that we can't afford to ignore, including a war that costs $10 billion a month. And for Palin, the Iraq conflict is more than just politics. Obviously, you have a personal connection. Your son, Track, was just deployed there this year.
Under what circumstances would you support pulling the troops out of Iraq, and what defines victory for you?
We look forward to allowing these troops to come home safely, but with honor and victory, not waving a white flag of surrender to the terrorists who are there now trying to rebuild stronghold. No, we need that surge strategy to continue, the counterinsurgent strategy that John McCain knew would work. Barack Obama still to this day cannot admit works.
But in order to claim victory, Palin says certain things must be accomplished first.
The Iraqi security forces securing its own people. That is conditions on the ground that will be shared with the new administration. Then we will know it's time. But not a premature withdrawal, or the terrorists are going to get back in there and grow those strongholds again.
And while winning in Iraq is a critical issue for the McCain camp, the candidates will also be waging a massive ground war across the Commonwealth in the final stretch of this campaign in an all-out battle to keep Virginia red. And coming up tonight at 11 in part 2 of my interview with Governor Palin, we talk about the McCain plan to fix health care, the tickets energy policy, and why she says, despite what her critics have to say, she is ready to lead.
And Crystal, so many times these people are so surrounded by their people, so to speak. What was she like in person, just on a one-to-one basis like that?
You know, I really got to say, I was actually quite impressed, because we've seen a lot of the network interviews, we've seen a lot of the criticism about Sarah Palin, but she was really very poised and very gracious and very nice, perhaps a little coached from my own personal perspective, very scripted as far as the talking points and the policy, but I do think she was a very intelligent person that maybe kind of got in the media spotlight, kind of got a little overwhelmed with that, you know.
We'll get to hear a little bit more from her coming up tonight at 11.
Absolutely.